You've probably missed a woman flirting with you today without even realizing it. Maybe it happened when she brushed past you at the coffee shop, or when she held your gaze a second too long in a meeting. You thought it was nothing, just a random moment. But to her, it was a calculated move, a quiet signal meant for the man who's sharp enough to notice. Here's the reality. Most men are blind to the way women truly flirt. They expect it to be loud, obvious, and playful, when in truth it's subtle, layered, and easy to miss. Women are masters at protecting themselves from rejection while still giving you an opening. They'll plant little moments in your path, an extra glance, a question that's a little too personal, a smile that lingers just long enough, and then they wait to see if you pick up the thread. The problem? If you don't see these signs, you miss your chance. And once that moment passes, so does a part of her interest. But if you can spot them and respond the right way, you instantly stand out from every other man. You become the one who understands her without her having to spell it out. That kind of awareness isn't just attractive, it's rare, and rare is irresistible. By the end of this video, you won't be guessing whether a woman is into you. You'll know, and knowing is where the game really begins. Let's get into it. Number 1. She puts herself in your line of sight. You might think attraction is all about bold moves, her walking up to you, starting the conversation, or touching your arm. But for most women, the real game is much quieter. Instead of charging toward you, she'll place herself where you can see her. It's not coincidence, it's strategy. Imagine this: Jake, 32, works at a downtown marketing agency. Every morning he grabs coffee from the same cafe before heading to the office. One week, he notices that the same woman, long dark hair, sharp blazer, always seems to be there around the same time, standing in line just ahead of him, or sitting at a table in direct view of the door. At first, he chalks it up to routine, but here's the truth. If she's even a little interested, she's making sure the universe gives you the chance to notice her. This is where a lot of men slip up. They assume proximity means nothing unless she says something, but proximity is the first signal. She's giving you an opening without risking rejection. If you miss it, she'll simply retreat, telling herself you weren't interested. From a psychological standpoint, this plays on something ancient: familiarity breeds attraction. The more often you see her, the more your brain registers her as part of your world. The Stoics had a quiet understanding of presence. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." In this case, listening means paying attention not just to words, but to patterns. Where does she show up? Does she adjust her pace so you enter the room together? Does she turn her body slightly toward you, even if she's pretending to look at her phone? Let's take another example. Emily, 27, is in a yoga class with a guy she finds interesting. She never rushes to grab a mat near the front. Instead, she sets up in the back row directly in his line of sight. When the class takes a water break, she just happens to walk past him instead of using the exit closer to her spot. Every move looks casual, but it's designed to place her on his radar. The key for you isn't to leap on every woman who happens to be nearby. It's to notice the difference between random and intentional. Random is bumping into her once in a crowded space. Intentional is her being in the same spot again and again, at times and places that make no practical sense unless she wanted to be seen. So, what should you do? First, match her subtlety. Make eye contact. Let your gaze linger for half a beat longer than normal. Offer a small smile, then return to what you were doing. This communicates that you've noticed without smothering the moment. Second, create an opportunity for conversation that feels natural. Comment on something in the environment. Ask a low-pressure question, or simply greet her warmly the next time you cross paths. Women respect a man who can pick up on a signal without turning it into a performance. They're testing whether you're observant and confident enough to act without being needy. If you can pass that test, you shift the dynamic from chance encounters to intentional connection. If you've ever caught yourself wondering, was she there for me? Trust your gut. More often than not, if the thought even crossed your mind, there's at least a spark there. The question is, will you act before that spark fades? Drop your thoughts below, say, I see her, if you've ever noticed a woman doing this. And don't go anywhere, because the next sign is something even more subtle, and if you miss it, you could miss the biggest opportunity of all. Number 2, she fixes herself when you're around. Here's the thing: most men think attraction is about words, grand gestures, or physical touch. But a woman's deepest signals often show up in the tiniest movements, the ones she probably doesn't even fully realize she's making. One of the clearest: she adjusts herself the moment you're within range. I'm not talking about a full-on fashion show. It's the subtle tuck of her hair behind her ear, the quick glance at her reflection in a window, the straightening of her posture, the small pull at her shirt to make sure it falls just right. These aren't random. These are instinctive shifts designed to present her in the most flattering light to you. Think about it. Humans have been signaling attraction long before dating apps or pickup lines. These self-adjustments are primal. They communicate two things. She's aware of you, and she cares how you perceive her. You don't fix yourself for someone you're indifferent about. The Stoics spoke often about awareness. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Observe always that everything is the result of change, and accustom yourself to think that nothing is nature's way more than this." When you see her fixing herself in your presence, it's a small but powerful change, her natural state shifting because you entered the space. The beauty of this signal is in its subtlety. If you're not paying attention, you'll miss it completely. But if you're tuned in, it's like hearing a secret only you're meant to hear. For example, she might casually swipe on a fresh layer of lip balm while glancing in your direction. She might adjust the strap of her bag so it sits more comfortably on her shoulder, all while stealing a quick look at your reaction. Now, it's important you don't jump to conclusions just because a woman plays with her hair. Context matters. If she's sitting alone, relaxed, and makes small adjustments as soon as you step near, that's worth noting. If she's in the middle of a heated phone call and fiddling with her jacket, that's probably unrelated. The power is in patterns, not one-off moments. Your job isn't to call it out. Never say something like, "I see you fixing yourself." That ruins the dynamic instantly. Instead, recognize it as a green light to increase engagement. Hold her gaze a little longer. Step closer into conversation. Let her feel that you noticed her without announcing it. This is where many men overplay their hand. They turn subtle attraction into a heavy-handed move. But attraction grows best in the spaces where nothing is forced. She's already doing the work of signaling. Your role is to match her energy and let the tension breathe. And here's the part most men miss. A woman adjusting herself isn't just about vanity. It's about alignment. She's aligning her appearance, her energy, her body language to the version of herself she wants you to see. That's a sign she's mentally invested in the interaction, even before a single flirtatious word is spoken. Think of it as her way of silently saying, "I want you to notice me at my best." If you can read that, you're already a step ahead of 90% of men, because most will dismiss it as nothing. The Stoics believed in sharpening perception, noticing the truth hidden beneath the surface. Here, the truth is simple. When a woman cares how she looks in your presence, it means you matter more than she's letting on. So next time you see her fix her hair, straighten her dress, or subtly check her reflection after spotting you, don't ignore it. That's not random. That's a quiet, deliberate invitation. The question is, will you accept it? Number 3, she finds excuses to talk to you. If there's one thing you need to understand about attraction, it's this. Women rarely initiate conversation for no reason. If she's making the effort to talk to you, especially when she could easily go about her day without doing so, it's intentional. The twist is, she'll often disguise it under something casual or practical so it doesn't seem obvious. Let's paint a scene. Jake, 31, works in a co-working space. There's a woman, Emily, 28, who sits 2 rows away. She could email him, she could ask the guy next to her, or she could simply Google the answer to her question. But instead she walks over and asks, "Hey, do you know if the coffee machine is working? It tastes weird today." On the surface, it's a simple, almost trivial question. But here's the thing, it's not about the coffee. It's about creating a moment of connection. This is where many men slip up. They either treat it as nothing special, or they get so eager that they kill the natural flow. A woman finding excuses to talk to you is testing the waters. She's checking if you're easy to talk to, if you can hold her attention, and most importantly, if you can make her feel something in those micro moments. The Stoics would tell you to stay centered here. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." When she starts a conversation, don't just answer her question, engage. Ask her something back. Let her know you're listening, not just hearing. Another real-world example. Imagine you're at the gym. Sarah, 26, is usually focused on her workout. But today, she walks over mid-set and says, "Hey, do you know how to adjust this machine?" Maybe she does know, she's been using it for months, but she's using the question as a socially acceptable bridge to you. If you answer quickly and turn away, you've just closed that bridge. If you instead smile, walk over and say, "Yeah, I can show you, but you might owe me a spot later," you've kept the connection alive while injecting a little playful energy. The subtlety here is key. A woman will rarely walk up and say, "I just wanted to talk to you because I find you attractive." That's not how the dance works. Instead, she'll package her interest inside something safe: directions, help, advice, an observation about the environment. The question for you is whether you can read the subtext. It's also worth noting that the more often she does this, the stronger the signal becomes. 1 casual conversation could be chance. 2 or 3 in a short period, especially if they seem unnecessary, usually means she's drawn to your presence. And here's the important part. She's choosing you as the person she wants to share these small slices of her day with. Don't confuse this with over-availability. Just because she talks to you doesn't mean you should drop everything and give her your undivided attention for hours. Keep your frame. Respond warmly but maintain your own rhythm. That balance between interest and independence is what keeps attraction charged. One of the most powerful ways to respond when she finds an excuse to talk to you is to subtly escalate the conversation beyond her initial reason. If she asks about the weather, pivot into a light, teasing comment. If she brings up something in the room, link it to a playful or intriguing question about her. These moments are openings, don't leave them unexplored. The Stoic approach reminds us not to be distracted by every little external pull, but also not to ignore the meaningful ones. In this case, the meaningful part isn't the words she says, it's the fact that she chose to say anything at all. So the next time a woman seems to create random reasons to strike up a conversation, whether it's about coffee, a printer, the gym, or the weather, see it for what it is, an intentional spark. The real question isn't why she's talking to you. The real question is, what are you going to do with that opportunity? Number 4, she creates accidental touch or bumps. Touch is one of the oldest and most primal languages of attraction, and women have mastered the art of making it feel unplanned. That gentle brush of her arm against yours, the slight bump of her hip as she passes, or the grazing of her fingertips when handing you something, these are not always accidents. More often, they're deliberate and strategic, a way of bridging the physical gap without committing to anything overt. It's an unspoken invitation. The physical contact might be subtle, but it bypasses logic and goes straight to your nervous system. You feel it instantly, and she knows you feel it. This is her way of saying, "I'm comfortable enough to be in your space," and perhaps testing whether you're equally comfortable in hers. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Her touch is the event. Your composure is the power. Many men either overreact, getting visibly excited, or underreact, ignoring the signal altogether. The right move is to acknowledge it without losing your calm. Hold your frame. Let the moment breathe. Context matters here. In a crowded bar, she could walk around you easily, but instead she brushes by so close her shoulder grazes yours. In a conversation, she could keep her hands folded, but instead she rests her fingers lightly on your forearm when she laughs. These are deliberate accidents, meant to gauge both your awareness and your confidence. Your response is where most men fail. Too eager, and you signal neediness. Too distant, and you kill the spark. The sweet spot is reciprocity without desperation. If she bumps into you playfully, a subtle lean toward her when you reply tells her you're comfortable in her orbit. If she lets her hand linger near yours, don't yank yours away, let the contact exist naturally. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This principle applies perfectly here. Your calm, grounded response communicates far more than any clever line could. She's not just touching you, she's testing your presence under an intimate stimulus. If you can remain composed, yet subtly affirm the connection, you pass the test. Another thing most men miss. This isn't only about attraction, it's about pacing. A single accidental touch can create more tension than an entire evening of obvious flirtation. When she takes the risk to break the barrier, your job isn't to escalate wildly, it's to let that spark linger. Desire grows in the spaces between actions, not in constant overexposure. So next time you feel that soft, unplanned brush against your arm, or she leans just close enough for your shoulders to touch, don't see it as random. Recognize it for what it is, a deliberate move in a quiet, physical conversation. And remember, the most magnetic men don't chase these moments. They let the moment come to them, then respond with a balance of awareness and calm authority. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever noticed this subtle move and realized it wasn't an accident? Drop it in the comments, starting with, "I notice" first, to show you're the kind of man who reads the unspoken signs. And stay right here, because what comes next will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about the way women reveal interest. Number 5. She positions herself closer than necessary. Sometimes, attraction isn't announced with words or even a touch, it's measured in inches. When a woman is drawn to you, she often closes the physical space between you without you realizing it. She chooses the seat next to yours instead of the one across the table. She stands just a little too close in line, even though there's plenty of space behind you. And when you're talking in a group, she subtly angles her body toward you, reducing the invisible boundary most strangers keep. Take, for example, Michael, 29, sitting at his favorite coffee shop working on his laptop. The place is half empty. He notices Emily, 27, come in, order her drink, and scan the room. There are several open tables, yet she picks the one directly beside him. Not across, not at the far corner right next to him. She casually pulls out her chair, places her coffee down, and within minutes, their elbows are almost touching. She isn't here by accident. She's making herself available, accessible, and most importantly, within his physical proximity. From a psychological standpoint, this is a significant signal. Personal space is something we naturally guard, especially with strangers. By stepping into yours gently, without intrusion, she's showing both comfort and interest. It's subtle enough to maintain plausible deniability, yet obvious enough for an observant man to recognize. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Observe always that everything is the result of change." In this case, the change is the shift from normal social distance to intimate range. She may not have touched you yet, but she's already moved the dynamic forward. The question is, will you notice? For men, The danger here is misreading or overreacting. If you lunge to close the gap further or comment on her nearness in a way that feels forced, you risk making her retreat. The key is to respond with quiet confidence. Keep your body relaxed, your voice steady, and your focus on the conversation or environment, not the space between you. Let her proximity become part of the atmosphere. This is also where timing matters. A man who rushes into her space can come across as overeager. A man who acknowledges her closeness through subtle cues, a lower tone of voice, maintaining calm eye contact, a slight lean when speaking, signals that he's aware and comfortable in that intimate range. The Stoics would call this mastery of self-control. As Epictetus put it, no man is free who is not master of himself. If you can remain unshaken by her physical approach, you communicate that your confidence isn't dependent on her move, it's simply who you are. And here's the deeper layer most men miss. Women often use proximity as a silent test. By drawing closer, she's not just seeing if you'll respond, she's observing how you respond. Do you stiffen up, break eye contact, or start overcompensating? Or do you stay composed, grounded, and engaging? Back to Michael and Emily, he doesn't jump into conversation the moment she sits down. Instead, he continues his work for a minute, then makes a light comment about the playlist in the cafe. She smiles, leans a little closer to hear him better, and suddenly the invisible barrier between them is gone. It feels natural because he allowed it to happen, rather than forcing it. Remember, in the dance of attraction, sometimes the smallest step forward can carry the most weight. A woman who positions herself closer than necessary is opening the door. The confident man doesn't shove it wide open, he simply leaves it ajar, letting the tension build at its own pace. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever noticed a woman deliberately closing the space between you? Drop it in the comments, starting with, "I see the space," to show you're tuned into these subtle cues. And stay tuned, because the next sign will make you rethink the way women create moments that feel accidental, but are anything but random. Number 6. She makes playful, flirty remarks. Sometimes, attraction doesn't walk through the front door, it sneaks in wearing a smile and a teasing comment. A woman who's interested often uses humor, light sarcasm, or playful jabs as a way to test your confidence and create a spark between you. She's not trying to insult you. She's trying to see if you can handle her energy without crumbling or becoming defensive. You might hear her say something like, "Wow, you're wearing that shirt again," with a smirk, or "You're so confident, almost too confident." These are baited hooks wrapped in humor. They're not random, they're intentional. She's putting a small amount of tension into the conversation to see if you can turn it into chemistry. This ties directly to the Stoic principle of not being disturbed by what's outside your control. As Epictetus wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When she throws a playful jab your way, your reaction says far more about you than the words themselves. If you take offense, you signal insecurity. If you freeze, you signal uncertainty. But if you lean in with a grin, roll with it, and maybe even playfully volley back, you pass the test. The beauty of this type of flirting is that it's layered. On the surface, it's a joke. Underneath, it's an invitation to banter, a shared moment that pulls you both into a more intimate rhythm. Humor has a way of dissolving barriers and speeding up rapport. In those moments, you're no longer strangers, you're co-conspirators in a private little game. But here's where many men fail. They mistake playful teasing as just another casual exchange and miss the opportunity to match her energy. This doesn't mean you need to roast her or fire back with cruelty. It means you mirror her playfulness while staying grounded. Keep your voice calm, your smile genuine, and your timing sharp. A light, confident comeback shows you're socially agile and unshaken, a quality deeply attractive to women. And there's another layer to this. She may be testing whether you can lead the banter. If she has to keep throwing playful remarks without you ever initiating, the dynamic becomes unbalanced. The most magnetic men know how to flip the script. After responding smoothly, they'll occasionally toss in their own subtle tease, inviting her to react. This creates a back-and-forth rhythm that feels alive, unpredictable, and exciting. The Stoics often spoke of the power of composure under pressure. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." In flirting, that outside event might be her playful dig. Your mind is your composure, your confidence, your ability to turn the moment into something fun instead of awkward. Women enjoy this style of flirting because it allows them to express interest without having to say, "I like you," outright. It's a safer, more socially acceptable way of testing attraction. For the man who can recognize and navigate it, these remarks are green lights disguised as speed bumps. If you've ever had a conversation where you both kept smiling, where the energy felt charged and playful, chances are you were in the middle of this exact dance. The only question is, did you step up and lead it, or did you let it fizzle? Now, here's your challenge. The next time a woman throws you a playful jab, don't flinch. Lean in, smile, and volley back with charm. That's how you turn a moment of teasing into a spark of undeniable chemistry. Have you ever had a woman tease you in a way that made you wonder if she was flirting? Share it in the comments, starting with "I play along" if you've got the confidence to match her energy. And stick around, because the next sign will show you how women use their actions, not just words, to send signals most men completely overlook. It's subtle, but once you see it, you'll never miss it again. Number 7. She stays facing you, even when it's time to leave. Sometimes, attraction doesn't end when the conversation does. It lingers in the way she holds her body, in the way she refuses to fully turn away. If you've ever been talking to a woman and noticed that, even when she's saying she needs to go, she's still angled toward you, maintaining eye contact, maybe even taking small steps backward instead of turning around, you've witnessed one of the most telling signs of interest. It's a little like those moments in a good movie when the scene should cut, but the director holds the shot for just a beat longer because that extra moment says everything. This is her way of saying, "I'm not ready for this connection to end just yet." Take, for example, David, 31, who met Emily, 28, at a mutual friend's birthday dinner. They'd been seated across from each other, trading glances all night. When the evening wound down and people started putting on coats, Emily stood up but didn't just turn and walk away. She stayed square to David, still chatting, still smiling, letting the conversation spill into the doorway. Even when she took a step toward the exit, her shoulders and hips stayed pointed toward him. That lingering body language was her unspoken invitation for him to prolong the moment. From a Stoic perspective, there's an important principle here. Observe how people's bodies betray their intentions more than their words. Marcus Aurelius reminded us to study actions, not just speech. While her words might say, "I have to get going," her body could be telling you, "I want you to keep me here a little longer." This is why presence matters so much. If you're distracted checking your phone, looking over her shoulder, you'll miss these subtle cues. But if you're locked in, calm and confident, you'll not only see them, you'll know how to act. You don't need to jump in with a cheesy line or beg her to stay. Instead, you can slow the pace, ask one more thoughtful question, or make a light, playful remark that gives her permission to linger. What many men do wrong in this moment is they rush to wrap things up, afraid of overstaying their welcome. But when her body is still turned toward you, she's giving you a gift, the chance to deepen the connection before the night ends. This doesn't mean dragging out the goodbye indefinitely. It means savoring those last moments, keeping the energy light and magnetic, so she leaves with you on her mind. Here's the kicker: when she finally does turn to go, if she glances back over her shoulder, that's another layer of confirmation. She's mentally replaying the interaction, even as she walks away. It's her way of keeping that invisible thread between you alive. Think of it like this. Words are the surface of communication, but body language is the undertow. You can hear her say she's leaving, but you feel her wanting to stay. That's the moment to be steady, grounded, and present the exact qualities that make her want to see you again. So, next time you're talking to a woman and she lingers facing you, even as the conversation should be ending, don't just chalk it up to politeness. Recognize it for what it is, a quiet, powerful sign that she's drawn to you. Have you ever noticed a woman doing this? Drop a comment starting with, "I see it," if you've picked up on this sign before. And keep watching, because the next signal goes beyond body language and into a form of flirtation that happens without a single word spoken, yet speaks volumes if you know what to look for. Number 8. She extends the conversation beyond the moment. One of the clearest signs a woman is flirting is when she makes sure the interaction doesn't just end when you part ways. It's not just about the time you spend together in person, it's about her keeping that thread of connection alive afterward. Maybe she sends a follow-up message referencing something you said. Maybe she tags you in a meme that relates to an inside joke from earlier. Maybe she accidentally sends you a song she's been listening to, knowing full well it'll make you think of her. This isn't random, it's deliberate, even if she plays it off as casual. Women who are interested often look for ways to remain in your mental space without being overtly clingy. They'll plant little conversational seeds that sprout later. The beauty of this approach is that it keeps the energy alive without requiring her to make a grand gesture. A Stoic would say this is a prime example of reading between the lines. Epictetus reminds us, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." In this context, listening means paying attention to what she's really doing, not just the words, but the patterns. If she keeps creating excuses to engage, she's signaling investment. You might notice she references something minor you said days ago, proving she not only heard you, but stored it away because it mattered to her. She could have easily let that moment fade, but she didn't. She brought it back into play. That's the difference between polite conversation and a woman actively nurturing a connection. For example, imagine you mentioned you were trying a new coffee shop last weekend. A few days later, she messages you, "So, did that cappuccino live up to the hype?" On the surface, it's just a question, but beneath it, she's telling you she's been thinking about you. That's the emotional equivalent of her walking back into the room after already leaving. It's important here not to misinterpret every after-conversation ping as romantic interest. Context matters. The key difference with flirtation is that her follow-ups carry a sense of playfulness, curiosity, or intimacy, something that subtly reopens the door you thought was closed. The wrong move for most men in this moment is either over-analyzing to the point of paralysis or, worse, responding with flat, one-word replies. If she's extending the conversation, she's giving you an opportunity to deepen the exchange. Meet her halfway with equal energy. Keep it light but layered. Give her something intriguing to respond to so the flow continues. Remember, attraction thrives on momentum. The more she invests in extending conversations, the more space she's creating for that attraction to grow. Your role is to stay grounded, not to overcompensate or chase. She's already opening the door, you don't need to knock it down. There's also a deeper psychological truth here. Women extend conversations with men they feel emotionally safe with. If she didn't enjoy the initial interaction or trust that you'd respond well, she wouldn't bother. This is why paying attention to these beyond-the-moment interactions is so important. They're not just friendly follow-ups, they're little tests of connection. If you recognize this sign in real life, acknowledge it for what it is, interest disguised as casual continuity. Respond in a way that leaves her looking forward to the next exchange, not just the next meeting. Have you ever had a woman keep a conversation going long after it should have ended? Comment, I notice patterns, if you've spotted this before. And stay tuned, because the next sign flips the script. It's when she doesn't just extend conversations, but changes the rhythm entirely, making you feel like time moves differently when you're with her. Number 9. She uses the crowd to keep you in her orbit. Sometimes, the most telling flirtation isn't in a one-on-one moment, it's in how she behaves when there are other people around. A woman who's interested will find ways to keep you connected to her, even when you're not directly speaking. She might position herself in the same group conversation, angle her body so she can still see you, or jump into a topic she knows you'll have something to say about. It's like she's creating an invisible thread in the middle of all the noise, making sure you're still in her orbit. Take Ryan, 29, at a mutual friend's birthday party. He notices Emily, 27, drifting between different groups of people. She's laughing, talking, fully engaged with others, yet somehow she always circles back to wherever he is. She might lean in to ask, "Hey, didn't you once tell me about that band?" while the conversation is going on, pulling him into the mix without isolating them from the group. To the casual observer, it's just friendly mingling. But Ryan feels she's ensuring that he stays within her reach without making it obvious. From a Stoic perspective, Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Observe always that everything is the result of change, and get used to thinking that there is nothing nature loves so well as to change existing forms." In social dynamics, her ability to weave you into shifting group situations is exactly that, a subtle adaptation that keeps your presence a constant. She's changing the form of the crowd to keep the connection alive. This type of flirting is powerful because it's indirect. She's not risking overt rejection, but she's still sending a clear signal. I notice you, and I want you to notice me, even when others are watching. She could easily stay across the room, but instead, she maneuvers within the social flow to keep you engaged. If you're not paying attention, you might dismiss this as coincidence. That's where most men lose the plot. The reality? In a busy room, everyone has choices about who they spend their energy on. If she's making micro adjustments to stay near you, whether it's moving her seat at a group dinner or steering the topic towards something you can chime in on, it's intentional. Your role here isn't to call it out or make it awkward. Instead, reciprocate in a way that makes her feel that subtle effort is worth it. If she loops you into a group discussion, bring her in too. If she maneuvers closer in a crowded space, acknowledge her presence with a small smile or a remark just for her. These small signals reinforce the connection without breaking the natural flow of the event. This kind of flirting also reveals something deeper about her interest. She's not just after a private spark. She wants to see how you fit in her public world. By involving you in the group context, she's blending attraction with social compatibility, two things that matter deeply in long-term dynamics. So next time you're in a social setting, don't just watch for the obvious signs. Watch how the environment shifts around you. Ask yourself, is she making sure we stay linked, even here? If the answer is yes, you're not imagining it. She's using the crowd as a stage, and you're her chosen scene partner. Have you ever noticed a woman subtly keeping you in her social space all night? Drop "I stay aware" in the comments if you've caught this before. And in the next part, we'll explore a sign that's even harder to fake, one that doesn't rely on movement or conversation, but on something more primal, the way her eyes betray what she's really feeling. Number 10. She drops hints, hoping you'll pick them up. One of the most underestimated forms of flirting is hint dropping. It's subtle, indirect, and often laced with plausible deniability. She's not outright saying, "I'm interested in you," but she's leaving verbal breadcrumbs in hopes you'll follow them. The catch? If you're not tuned in, those hints will slide right past you, and she'll assume you're either oblivious or uninterested. Hints come in many forms. She might mention a new restaurant she's dying to try without explicitly inviting you, but with a tone that suggests she wouldn't mind if you said, "We should go there together." Or she could reference an event she's attending alone, a movie she wants to see, or even a hobby she's curious about, all strategically selected to give you an easy in without her making the first overt move. There's a deeper psychology behind this. Many women use hints because it allows them to maintain a sense of safety and control. It reduces the risk of rejection while still signaling interest. It's the romantic equivalent of leaving a door unlocked instead of swinging it wide open. She's testing your awareness, your initiative, and your ability to read between the lines. Take a casual work setting. Over lunch, she says, "I've been meaning to check out that new sushi place downtown, but none of my friends are into sushi." On the surface, it's a random comment, but in reality, she's just passed you the ball. A man who understands social dynamics doesn't let it drop. He takes the shot. "I love sushi. Let's go this weekend." Simple, confident, and responsive. From a Stoic perspective, Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Hint dropping isn't about you talking more, it's about you listening better. Women who flirt this way are speaking in code. If you're too focused on what you're going to say next, you'll miss the cues entirely. Here's the real test. Can you distinguish between a generic statement and a targeted one? If she's mentioning details that intersect with your known interests, preferences, or schedule, it's likely intentional. A random colleague won't casually reference your favorite band playing in town unless she's aiming for you to respond. Another common form of hint dropping comes in the form of future projections. She might say something like, "If I ever go hiking in Colorado, I'd need someone to show me the good spots," knowing full well you're an avid hiker. She's not asking outright, but she's planting a scenario in which you're part of the picture. The men who thrive in this arena aren't just good talkers, they're attentive. They make mental notes, they follow up. If she mentioned loving a particular dessert, they bring it up later. "You said you're into tiramisu. I found a place that makes the best one in the city." That level of attention transforms subtle hints into powerful attraction because it shows you're not just hearing her, you're seeing her. And here's the thing, ignoring a hint doesn't just miss an opportunity, it can subtly cool her interest. If she feels like her efforts to connect go unnoticed, she might pull back entirely. On the other hand, picking up on her hints, responding with confidence, and moving things forward communicates decisiveness, one of the most attractive traits a man can display. So, the next time a woman makes an oddly specific comment, shares a personal detail that aligns with your world, or paints a hypothetical scenario involving something you both enjoy, don't just nod and move on. Recognize it for what it is. Her way of saying, "Your move." Have you ever caught a woman dropping a hint and turned it into something real? Comment, "I always notice" below if you've been that guy. If this video sparked something in you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That way, you never miss the mindset shifts that can quietly change everything. Inside, we don't chase, we lead, and we grow together. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.